Thank you all for coming today. It's great to see all the solar advocates for the Solar Fiesta. My name is Mark Johnson. We're from Soluna Solar. We've been in business in northern New Mexico since 1978. We originally started building, actually we had a cabinet making business, and we started building houses and commercial construction in the late 70s, early 80s. About 7 years ago, we made a big transition for our company and added a solar division to it. And we named it Soluna Solar. And so today we're going to talk both about solar thermal and photovoltaic systems. And we're one of the only companies that do both. Solar thermal is hot water and photovoltaic is electric. So we're going to talk about commercial and residential applications and some real good numbers, some practical ideas on how to incorporate solar into your home or business. And then we're going to talk about, we're going to start off the presentation talking about climate change and global warming and what the United States contributes to the global warming problem. So global warming is, you guys, some of you were in the presentation before, which was really well done. But global warming is the increase of the Earth's average surface temperature due to buildup of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. Global warming contributes to rising sea levels and increased global temperatures. And the easiest proof to see is like melting glaciers across the planet and the melting ice at the ice caps. And one point of fact is global warming and climate change will likely decrease the Colorado River's flow, that's sort of in our neighborhood, by 20% over the next 40 years. And climate change just really refers to the long-term changes in our climate, including average temperature and precipitation. Obvious causes of climate change are pollution from coal-fired power plants, natural gas, and oil. All contribute to global warming and climate change. And one thing that's undeniable is that climate change is imminent, and we're in the midst of it, and it's happening now. There's been a lot of news lately about the Intergovernment Panel on Climate Change, and they just released their 5th assessment report and a series of reports that proves upon all certainty that climate change is happening right now. 80% of all emissions affecting from our climate are derived from burning fossil fuels. Greenhouse gas emissions, according to the study, need to be cut by 40 to 70% by mid-century for humanity to face a better than 50-50 chance of dodging the worst effects of global warming. And all the scientists agree it's a 90% probability that human-produced greenhouse gases, CO2, methane, and nitrous oxide, have caused much of the observed increase in the Earth's temperature over the last 50 years. So the IPCC objective is really simple. I mean, it's, we need to at least stabilize the greenhouse gas concentrations in the atmosphere at a level that would prevent dangerous environmental pollution moving forward. And it's really a simple goal. Might be a little hard to achieve. Carbon dioxide emissions from the energy supply sector are expected to double or even triple by 2050. Unless energy intensity improvements like renewable energy can be accelerated beyond what has happened historically. The main contributors, including growing energy demand and increase in the share of coal in the fuel mix. So we need to try and obviously make coal power plants a much less part of the mix. And decarbonizing electricity generation is a key component of cost-effective strategies, obviously switching to renewables. So this is really simple here. I mean, most of us, we can do something about our own planet by our own home. So one of the contributing factors is just households in the United States are are responsible for 40% of the carbon emissions. You know, by the vehicles we drive, home heating, the gas and propane we burn, and the electricity in our, but the simple thing of changing light bulbs in that has a good effect on a small scale, but a large scale if everybody does it. But you know, it's not all bad news about the climate and about global warming. I mean, the solar industry is coming along. And if you look at this graph here, in 2010, for PV installations in the United States, only 142 megawatts were installed in the whole country. And this is a quarter by quarter measurement of megawatt per installations over the last 4 years. And you can see by the time we get to 2013, just last year, we installed over 4,700 megawatts of power. Now that graph looks really, really good, and it's also reflected in our business because our business has grown fourfold, fivefold in just that amount of time. And but it's, at least we're moving in the right direction, but it's not enough. One neat thing about solar is the jobs that it creates. And so you can see in 2010 we were about 90,000 solar jobs, and we increased that over around 50,000 jobs in just 3.5 years. Our country produces about 37% of our electricity. And if you compare that to solar jobs, there's almost 143,000 solar jobs in the country. And yet the solar power currently that we're producing is only 0.2% of the whole energy mix. So as the demand for solar rises, so do job opportunities. I mean, there's a lot of people that, naysayers that say that that it's just not a fact that solar jobs are increasing. But I mean, this graph tells you that it is, and when you compare it to coal, it's really poignant fact. So here's something that we can do. Obviously, we can reduce our carbon emissions. And part of that is to install renewable energy systems at our homes or businesses. But when we go out to a solar job, what we tell clients is someone calls us for a renewable energy system, and maybe a system costs $10,000. So we tell them the very first things that they should do to their home is maybe, to start small, to take a look at your little things that you can do in your house. If you spend $1,000 on upgrading some insulation or weather stripping or thresholds or window coverings, I mean, you get a lot more bang for your buck by just making your house tighter than investing in a renewable energy system. I mean, of course, we want to sell renewable energy systems, but we do advise people to do that because it's a really smart thing to do. And appliances in your home, if you have appliances from the early 90s or late 80s still, your refrigerator or washing machine and dryer, the new appliances, the Energy Star appliances that you guys have heard about, are twice as efficient as anything back then. So, that's another thing that is a really important component about energy conservation at home. And of course, well, I can't say enough about recycling. So we come to the question of why solar. And solar energy is clean and reliable, and most importantly, it's renewable. Customers can implement their very own power-producing or heat-producing power plant at your own home, okay? And the benefits of integrating solar are visible for 30 years maybe, 24 years are the expected life of the systems that we're installing now. And during that time, the customer benefits from producing their own renewable energy without dependence on the utility and agony of rising, utility costs. When you think about it, if you have a boiler at home that runs on gas or propane, or you have electricity, of course, that you just turn your lights on, you don't ever really own those systems, okay? Because you're dependent on P&M or a propane company or gas company of New Mexico to fuel the systems that you have at your house. So you're never ever really liberated. especially in new construction, if you integrate solar into your house, there's, like they said in the earlier presentation, you know, there's no politician yet that's figured out a way to tax the sun. Okay, I mean, it's still free, renewable energy that's for all of us to have. And so once you do have a renewable energy system that is solar, it is yours. You are the true owner of that system when you're not when you rely on fossil fuels. And the United States is one of the leading countries in producing carbon dioxide, which obviously in elevated levels has proven to be adversely affect the natural greenhouse that surrounds the Earth. You know, and solar is environmentally responsible, of course. It's socially and civically minded people install solar if you are worried about what we're doing to our planet. And then there's monetary reasons to go solar. I mean, the solar tax credits that are still available until 2016. So a solar system is eligible for a tax credit from the state of 10% and 30% from the federal government. And you know, you're able to maximize your return on investment when you're able to take advantage of some of the tax incentives. You know, if any of you have a question or anything as I'm going along, just chime in and ask me. And then, you know, with all the money that you can be saving on renewable energy, and we'll show you examples, and it's really outrageous, but let's watch this video here for a minute.
Last week, we brought you the story of Republicans and some Democrats in Oklahoma voting to tax solar power by way of a bill allowing utility companies to charge a monthly fee for residential solar power use. But that is just one small example of a far broader attempt to kill solar power. Today, a great piece in the LA Times pulls back the curtain on the staggering breadth of this effort. The Koch brothers, anti-tax activist Grover Norquist, and some of the nation's largest power companies have backed efforts in recent months to roll back state policies that favor green energy. Policies that require utility companies to achieve a certain share of its power from renewable sources, and a net metering system which allows residential solar power users to sell their unused power back to utility companies. These are the very policies under attack by right-wing groups. According to the LA Times, ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, recently drafted model legislation that targeted net metering. Of course, conservatives have had a long-standing animus towards solar power. The Reagan administration gutted the research and development budgets for renewable energy at the Department of Energy and actually had 32 solar panels that had been installed in the White House during the Carter administration dismantled. And there was one of the right's favorite targets, the cylinder tobacco, which was recycled for an ad last year in Arizona by the conservative group 60 Plus.
We've seen this before.
The true engine of economic growth will always be companies like Solar.
Connected companies getting corporate welfare. Now California's few Solindrists city are getting rich on hardworking Arizonans.
Again, that ad was part of a broader effort in Arizona. According to the LA Times, a major utility in a tangle of secret donors and operatives with ties to ALEC and the Kochs invested millions to persuade state regulators to impose a monthly fee of $50 to $100 on net metering customers. Ultimately, a monthly fee of about $5 was imposed. There is a reason for all this ideological animus. Solar energy is the single biggest threat to the fossil fuel industry in this country. According to a recent report by the consulting firm McKinsey & Company, cost reductions will soon put solar, quote, within striking distance in economic terms of new construction for traditional power generation technologies such as coal, natural gas, and nuclear energy. So, if you're, oh, I don't know, the Koch brothers, and you've got a lot of money in fossil fuels, well, you've got reason to be nervous. We asked Koch Industries to respond to claims made in the LA Times piece, but have not yet received a reply. Instead, joining me now, Nikki Silvestri, Executive Director of Green for All, organization focused on building a green economy that lifts people out of power. And here's my favorite thing about the attack on solar from the fossil fuel industry and from conservatives, is they say, well, all of this is subsidies, and we need to let the free market decide. There is nothing more ridiculously socialistic command and control than the current utility system. You have no choice. You don't get to pick where your power from. The entire thing is the most command and control, centrally planned thing that we have in our entire economy.
That is absolutely true, Chris. And you know, we really have to sit and think about, what are we talking about? What is the argument? Solar is good for all. It creates jobs, and it's healthy for us. And right now, there is a monopoly when it comes to power companies. We don't really have a choice. But now that solar is starting to become competitive, there's starting to be arguments against it, is really what we're seeing.
And the other part of this, of course, is all of this talk leaves out the biggest elephant in the room, which is climate change, which is that solar power is zero emissions. And all these companies, and the Koch brothers have money to invest in fossil fuel, to Exxon and whoever else that have money, they are polluting for free. They are not paying for that pollution right now. And so, yeah, if you don't charge them for the pollution, then it's got a pretty good cost profile on it.
That's absolutely true. And it also leads you to ask the question, what are you actually arguing against? One of the biggest issues when it comes to climate change, and one of the biggest attacks from the right, is you can't have both solutions that are good for the environment and good for the economy at the same time. But then you look at something like solar. We're in desperate need of jobs right now. And the solar industry was growing 10 times faster than other sectors in the economy. If you want an argument about a win-win solution, you've got solar.
And that
So that's it. This goes on for another 4 minutes or so, diatribe on this. But so, that in my opinion, that piece points out how expensive fossil fuels are. I mean, and the price that we're paying for them. And when you compare that to solar, that's non-polluting. It's really, it debunks any of this idea of solar being too expensive. It's just not. So what Soluna Solar wants is that we want a choice, and we want people to be able to go green if they want to go green, without impediments of too much government and too much power by the utility companies. So we're going to talk a little bit about how affordable solar is right now, and like I said a little bit earlier, there's still state and federal tax credits that make it really lucrative to install a solar system. Falling module prices has made solar increasingly more affordable. Before it was 5 years ago, it was 90% more expensive than it is now. That's how much solar modules have fallen. In 2010, top PV firms dropped their multicrystalline solar module cost by 54%. That's in 1 year in 2010. And a lot of the leading manufacturers are on track to produce solar modules for about 36 cents per watt. That's the manufacturing cost. I mean, we're right around 46 cents right now. And they're thinking they can do that by 2017, but that doesn't necessarily reflect in the cost of modules, because the margins are so small on the solar companies that they're getting right now. So I don't, that wouldn't make a huge increase or decrease in the cost of a system compared to 2014 to 2017. And what we're going to talk about here a little bit is that businesses have even the absolute best incentives to go solar. And I can't understand why more businesses don't do it, because it really helps the bottom line in their business. There are the 10% state tax credits and the 30% federal tax credit. And then the USDA has a program called REAP. And I think it's even okay for Santa Fe City. It's called the Rural Energy for America program. And through this grant, they'll pay 25% of your renewable energy system if you're a business. They don't give it to you up front. You have to install the system. You have to write the grant. It takes a lot of work. We did it for our own business, and we've done it for 2 other businesses. And when you add that into all the other available incentives, it's 75% off your cost of your system. There's also something, the IRS has an accelerated depreciation program called MACRS, and it's kind of complicated, but it lets you depreciate all of your solar equipment 50% in 1 year and finish it off in 5 years, rather than have a 30-year depreciation schedule like for other business equipment. And it's worth at least 15% as a cash incentive in 1 year if you have the tax liability to be able to realize the credits. Having said all that, I mean, for a homeowner, an average savings is 30 to 50% for tax credits and incentives. And for businesses, I mean, it's between 50 and 75% depending on what you can realize. So what solar application might be right for you? So our company does solar thermal hot water systems and photovoltaic systems. So solar thermal system is for domestic heating, for domestic hot water. Especially beneficial if you're a propane user. Propane costs about 70% more than natural gas per BTU, and especially this year it went crazy with the with what happened on the East Coast and that. And I mean, people in Colorado were paying $6 a gallon for propane. It went up to around $3 around here when the cost was like $2. It's just getting raped by the power companies. A solar thermal system or a PV system allows you to lock in a price for the life of the system of the cost of your energy. So that's another concept that people need to think about, so that you're not held or being held hostage by power companies as your bills keep rising. If you put in a renewable energy system, you've locked in your price, no matter what size you put it in at. So the next slide shows us just how simple solar thermal works. We use evacuated tube collectors exclusively in our business, which is different than some of the other installers that use flat plate collectors. There's nothing wrong with flat plates, but we found that evacuated tube collectors outperform flat plates when it's really cold. Like if it's 0 degrees outside and it's a sunny day, these are less affected by ambient temperatures than flat plate collectors. I mean, I've gone up to a couple years ago when we had that cold snap when everyone's gas went out. We were on a job that we installed solar on, and it was near Costilla, and it was 15 degrees below 0 at 10:30 in the morning. And I went and checked the temperature of what the system was making. It's making 130-degree water, and it's just like I take my hat off and go, oh my God, I can't believe that it's doing that. But it's really pretty cool. And so that slide over there just shows a very simple system. You have a solar collector on the ground or on your roof. The sun comes out, a pump turns on, it circulates hot water through a heat exchanger and a solar storage tank. And then you take that hot water in there and do whatever you want to do with it. I mean, if you have radiant floor heating, you run it through your floor. If you need it for domestic hot water, you use it for bathing and cooking and washing and everything. So they're really cool systems. And we're especially proud of our solar thermal abilities in our company. A PV system is really very simple. I mean, it only consists of a few parts. The solar array, these modules are the force that converts sunlight into DC electricity. Inverters, Soluna Solar uses two types of inverters, string inverters and microinverters. If there are minor shading issues like trees or parapet walls on a roof or limited ground space, we like to use in-phase microinverters because if you have a string inverter system and you have a totally open space that's never shaded, it works just fine. But modules on a string inverter work as a team. And if one member of that team is shaded or it has bird poop or leaves or something on it, it knocks down the performance of the whole team. So we use microinverters a lot in rooftop solar arrays that we have because people have plumbing vents and chimneys and space limitations. And so we're able to derive more power out of the system because microinverters allow each module to work independent of the other, unlike a string inverter. So that's the advantage to microinverters. All of our systems come with a monitoring system, either string inverters or microinverters. And the microinverters at Enphase really have a really cool website that you can monitor module level monitoring. You can see what each module is doing. So we've had clients call us up and say, hey Mark, there's this one module that's at 75 watts and the other one's at 200 watts, but it's 10:30 in the morning and I tell them, well, that's in front of a plumbing vent. It was a little bit, just wait an hour. And as the sun moves across the sky, that module will be performing. So in a way, it's kind of a hassle for us because sometimes we get those phone calls, but it's really a neat system, the microinverters. And then, and then if you're really technical, you can look at, over here, you could be looking at your smartphone and seeing how your system's doing at home if you want to. And we like them too. We like people that put monitoring in because we can look at them. And, it's rare, but every now and then there's a problem, and it allows us to pick up on a problem. So then there's just a utility disconnect and a solar rec meter. And you have a way on your house to disconnect the solar on your roof or on the ground from the grid. And the reason that you have that is in case there's a power outage, you don't want to be depositing energy back onto the grid because you might electrocute a P&M guy or something, So, but also they automatically turn off. There's this thing called UL 1741. So I don't know. I think probably a lot of you here know what net metering is, but it's a way that you and your local utility company keep track of the extra power you're generating with your solar power system. The excess energy that you produce goes back into the grid and will credit your energy bank account for when you need to use or withdraw energy from the local utility company. For example, during the night or on cloudy days. So if you ever have a PV system on your house, during the daylight hours when it's sunny and you're consuming electricity in your house, you're actually taking that very electricity there that's still hooked up to the grid, but you're using it in your house. Any excess that you're producing gets deposited into the grid, and it makes your meter spin backwards. So that power is also going to be used for the closest house to you. So if you get along with your neighbor, you're helping them out by they're taking that power right off your roof, and it's being used before power coming from P&M during the daylight hours. So that's a kind of neat concept to think about. So the rec, well, we moved ahead here. That's okay. I want to talk to you guys about a system, the best case scenario here for a business system. And I'm going to kind of go item by item on here and talk about this. And this is taking advantage of all the incentives and grants, and it's a best case scenario to show you how affordable solar can be, especially for a business. So let's say we'll start with a 4 kW system, which is an average size residential system. The system cost is $12,800. Now I got that figure from the statewide price agreement. It's on the internet, and the credits are at the end here, so that people know that it's a real number. A lot of companies have statewide agreements with the state, and they put their price per watt right on the internet for doing state jobs. So that's where that number comes from. So if you put in and I agree with it also. So if you put in a 4K system, the overall cost is $12,800. And then there's a 30% tax credit for $3,800. There's a state tax credit for $1,200. And the REAP grant, if you can take advantage of that, is $3,200. And then there's the accelerated depreciation. So if your business that has any tax liability, you can depreciate and take advantage of the accelerated depreciation. Actually, that expired in 2013, but it's supposed to be renewed in 2014. They think it's going to be in the tax bill that's coming up later in the year. And it has a lot of support, both Republicans and Democrats, because everybody likes tax cuts or tax benefits. So that makes the total incentives reduce the cost of your system to $10,200, reduces $10,240 off the system. So if you subtract that from $12,800, the system cost after the solar tax credit is only $2,500 bucks. Go ahead.
I think it also adds to your argument that there's no sales tax.
Oh yeah, there's no sales tax. I don't even consider that anymore because it's just, we don't do it. We still have to file with the state that we made it. It's one of the incentives. Go ahead.
Mark, just a reminder to repeat the question for the viewers, please.
Oh. Okay. So that makes a system cost $2,500. Now, that system will generate $795 in electricity over the year. That's assuming a 3.5-cent REC credit and about 9 cents per kilowatt hour is what P&M charges. So if you divide $795 by the system cost of $2,560, that's a 31% return on investment the first year. So if you, you invest that, you get, that's an insane return. And that system pays off in 3 years. Now, of course, this is best case scenario. Then you have electricity for the next 25 years. But we actually did this, and so did a couple of our clients, business clients took advantage of it. And it takes a lot of work to get the REAP grant. I mean, it's working with the USDA, but we've gone through it a number of times now, and we help our clients get through it. I mean, they want to quit in the middle of it and say, this isn't worth $5,000. It's too much work, because they keep asking me the same question over and over again. But the people at the USDA really want to get this REAP program going, and it's the most underutilized benefit for renewable energy systems that I have seen. So, go ahead, Sam. So here's some environmental benefits of a 4 kW system for a rooftop array. I mean, you can see all the carbon that you eliminate and all the gasoline that you save and all of the trees that you help preserve to cleanse our air, and you can power 120 light bulbs 24/7 for 1 year with the 4 kW system. You know, you should put a plug-in car in there too, rather than for the gasoline. So I've already talked to you a little bit about this, and these are interconnection options. So if you do a renewable energy system or a PV system, you make a deal with your utility, whether it's P&M or Hamas or Kit Carson Electric Cooperative, and they recognize you as a power producer. And so they sign an agreement with you that they are going to buy the power from you at the going retail rate, which is a good deal. And as you saw earlier in this presentation, that I predict that pretty soon that there's going to be a big backlash against that, because you know, there's going to be lots of fighting about maintaining the grid and so on and so forth. If you guys think about how much money you've spent maintaining the grid, if you're an electric cooperative like Hamas or Kit Carson, you know, you're an owner in that electric cooperative, in that utility system, and you've paid for that grid over and over and over again. And this helps the grid. All of the solar, distributed solar that we have helps balance the grid, but there'll be fights saying that it doesn't. And you could also, go back, Zach, one time. If it's a bigger system, you can explore the possibility of a purchase power agreement. I don't think P&M is so receptive to those anymore, and even here at the college, I don't know if they gave them a purchase power agreement for what they're doing here, but the smaller electric cooperatives are still receptive to that idea. So what that is, you have a larger scale project, they pay you X amount of dollars for the kilowatt hours that you produce, with even an escalator in there of 1/2 cent per year. So it's pretty good deal if you can get one of those purchase power agreements. So then the next slide lets us just plug our company just a little bit here, since we're the sponsors of the Solar Fiesta. So we've been in business for over 30 years. We're a debt-free company. I'm licensed in everything, in general building and mechanical and electrical contracting. We maintain our prices as low as we can. We have really good relationships with our suppliers. We buy directly from manufacturers wherever we can to keep our prices low, and we have the best warranties and products in our solar business. If we do a system, we guarantee the power production for the first 5 years. So if we tell you it's going to make a certain amount of kilowatt hours and it doesn't, we'll make up the difference. We'll pay you, or we'll put another panel in. But we've never had to do anything like that. And we have a 10-year warranty on everything, a bumper-to-bumper warranty on the whole system. We provide all the engineering and permitting, and we take care of applying for all the tax credits for our clients. And like I said, we're licensed in every realm of construction in New Mexico. And we've been in business longer, our particular company, than any solar company in the state. I mean, we started this, I mean, they talked about Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan. Well, we were building solar greenhouses for kind of the hippie culture back in the late 70s and early 80s. And we do remember when Jimmy Carter did that, and we were really happy about it. And we were really disappointed when Reagan said, get rid of that stuff, it doesn't work. I mean, I was listening to Sean Hannity about 2 months ago, and he was talking about, on the radio for comic relief, and he was saying that my parents bought a house and they had those solar panels on the roof and they didn't work. God, I went ballistic. I wanted to just call in, and I can't believe some of the ignorant statements that come, you know, in talking about solar power. Another thing that that differentiates us from the other companies is that we're CES contractors. That's with cooperative educational services. What it does is it makes public schools and other public entities, it's easier to hire us if they want to because we've already been vetted. We have a contract with this organization, and it allows people to forego the procurement process. They don't have to get 3 bids if you're the Santa Fe County or something like that. They can hire us directly if they want to. So, and just some notable projects of ours. We just, a year ago, we did a project for Eagle Nest Elementary School. That's a 100 kW system. It takes care of 70% of the needs of the whole, the middle school and elementary. That's on a horse barn. They have an agricultural program, and that's across the street from the school. We did a 20 kW system for Sentinel Bank in Taos that takes care of their north side branch, 100%. We did another carport system there for Emery Law Firm, and he's got a plug-in Chevy Volt that takes care of the law firm's business and that. And then we have, we did a community solar project at Taos Charter School. And we're especially proud of that. This is the only community solar array in the state. So the way that this works, if you're a member of the Kit Carson Electric Cooperative, you can buy any number of panels that you want to. Say that you have a house that isn't a good solar, maybe you got a lot of trees and it's not a good solar site. Well, you can go and buy X amount of panels here and have it registered against your electric bill without having the hassle of having it at your house. You receive the exact same benefit. So it's a really neat idea. P&M has just poo-pooed this and won't even talk about community solar. So, and we're lucky to be part of the Kit Carson. I mean, we do a lot of our work in Taos, and Kit Carson Electric Cooperative, the CEO there won Solar Electric Power Association of the Year award. I mean, it wasn't like headline news, but it's a big deal in the solar industry to be recognized that way. Kit Carson is like the second or third electric that has more solar in it than other electric cooperatives in the whole country. So we're really lucky that we have such a vibrant solar electric cooperative there to work with. And that's about it. That's it for our presentation.
Yes, thank you. Can a retail customer in Kit Carson buy into this you're just talking about, or is it just business to business?
Okay, so the question is for the community solar project, whether just a residential customer or a business can buy into this system in order to lower their electric bill. And yes, anyone can buy into it, whether you're a business or whether you're a resident. So it's a really great concept. And it's for people that maybe don't have, that can do a huge system. I mean, if you want to buy one panel and participate a little bit, that's great. If you're a renter in an apartment building or somewhere like that, you know, you can participate in the solar benefits if you want.
That large-scale solar farm that's above Fiesta up there, is that, do you have any idea of what that's, is that one of these community?
Above Cuesta or at Cuesta?
It's around that Fiesta area. It's a very large scale. I believe it's not in Fiesta, but it's...
Okay, so the question is that there are there's a couple of large arrays north of Taos, near Cuesta, and actually one near Costilla. And the question is, are those community solar arrays? No, they're not. One of them is from the Chevron mine at Cuesta. They just have a power purchase agreement with the electric cooperative, and they get paid for the power that they produce through an agreement with Kit Carson. And then even north of that, right on the Colorado border, north of Costilla, there's another 1.5 megawatt privately owned solar generating farm. So the only solar community project is in the whole state is at Taos Charter School that we built.
How much energy does it take to charge up an electric car, like a little Volt or something, on the average?
So the question is how much does it take to charge a car? We actually have a couple of clients that have electric cars. We have one that has a Tesla. Man, you guys should get in a Tesla sometime. It's the fastest car I've ever been in. It's unbelievable, but they're unbelievably expensive. But let's say that we're talking about a Chevy Volt or a Nissan Leaf. We probably, of course, it depends on how much you drive, okay? So,
Get it and use it every day.
but we try and, for like a system that we just did, I think it's like 1.5 kilowatt increase in the size of a system. So that's about like 5 solar panels is enough to charge an average Nissan Leaf or a Chevy Volt. I mean, that's just, yeah. Okay.
Just to let you know, I've done the math on that. If you drive 12,000 miles a year, it's just under 2 kilowatts. So it's not 2 kilowatts if it's 12,000 miles a year.
Okay, well that's pretty good right there. So, I mean, the one that we just did a project by the DeVargas Mall for a guy, and he's buying a Nissan Leaf, and he just drives to work and back, so that's good.
Can you touch on a little bit on kind of the dark side, no pun intended, but the dark side of kind of the middlemen that are coming in and doing the whole purchasing space on your roof to put up these things to sell back?
You know, I don't know that they do that here. Does anyone know? Okay, the question is to talk about solar leases, and it was portrayed as kind of like being the dark side of solar, and I kind of think it is. But does anyone know if here, Claudia, do they do solar leases in here yet?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
They're in Colorado. Solar City is one of those companies in California, Colorado. So in larger areas, there's probably just not enough market in the
Yeah,
state.
but it's coming. It's coming.
Okay, well, SunPower does it also. SunPower is huge in Arizona, and that's Positive Energy and CST use SunPower modules. You know, I'm totally against that. And the reason being is that you don't own your roof anymore, okay? Well, you know, I'm for it because the more renewables that we can get, the better. I don't care if they're in lease programs, because every little bit helps reduce, you know, the effects of global warming. But as an economic decision for a homeowner, you know, you can lower your bill a little bit, but you don't own those solar panels on your roof, okay? The company that sells them to you works with a purchase power agreement or for tax incentives in that, and they reap the biggest benefit off of that. But it's still the right thing to do. It's just you're not going to save that much money. And when people do ask us about solar leases, you know, ethically as a company for us, I mean, I wouldn't do it even if it was offered, because, you know, I think you ought to be frugal. I mean, if in the area that we mostly work in, if you want to be part of the solar mix, you can buy into the community solar. And the way that we've developed our whole company since the early days, I mean, we're not very good at helping the economy because we don't borrow money, okay? And so we don't lease things, so we don't buy a truck for the business until we can afford it. So I have a different psychology on that. And we're really careful with the clients that we work with too. I mean, we have financing programs and that, and we're, you know, people that really want solar, we'll help them acquire a loan and do what they want to do, but we don't want to sell something to somebody that they can't afford. You know, it's an ethical business question. So I think that means we only have 10 minutes left, but I'm done with our presentation. If you guys want to talk any more or ask any more questions, Claudia?
I think the only benefit of a lease program would be somebody who's let's say retired and if they don't have tax liability. So their payback is going to be longer. And I just think that's probably the one time or the one kind of person who would consider it if they weren't going to go solar on their own dime, just because that 40% tax credit is really, you know,
Right.
pretty key to making it cost effective earlier. So anyway, that's just my.
Well, what I didn't put into our presentation because we didn't want to plug ourselves too much, but we didn't talk about our residential installs. And so Claudia's got a very valid point right now. The cost of solar has come down so much that the return on the investment, even without the solar tax credits, is probably going to be around 5%. okay? So, I mean, if you're a retired people and you still don't have tax liability, you have some money sitting in the bank that you're not using, and you want to get a return on that rather than the 0.5% that you're getting for your CD or 1%, I think it's a smart investment, if it doesn't hurt you economically, to invest in solar. And you know, I can show you guys, can come to our booth if you want to see the spreadsheets on that. So if you're just a regular person that has tax liability, your return on investment is somewhere between 8 and 12%, depending on the installation. If you cannot take advantage of the tax credits, then your return on investment is still at least 4% and maybe as high as 6% depending on the installation. So it makes economic sense, even with, you know, we're going to have to live with without these tax incentives in a few years. They're not going to go on forever. So I mean, we've already kind of looked at that, and we have installed systems for retired couples that you don't have that much liability.
So what's the next generation in photovoltaic systems going away from the standard module that you see now? Is it the rollout style photovoltaic systems, or what's kind of the next generation?
Okay, so the question is, what's the next generation of solar modules, or the advance in technology? Is there going to be something different than solar panels or thin film or something? You know, so far, you know, everybody talks about efficiency. So do you know what that really means? So if you have a solar module that's 300 watts and it's 2 foot by 4 foot, it puts out 300 watts. But maybe a competitor solar module is still 300 watts, but it's 3 feet wide by 4 feet. So the smaller module is more efficient. I mean, that's the whole thing about efficiency. It's only about scale of size. So if you have a big roof or you have room on your land, you know, you may not want to invest in a solar module that has this really high efficiency rating, because your only gain is space. Okay, so people really need to understand that, because, you know, our competitors say, oh, we have this is way more efficient than that. And when a client hears, oh man, it's so much more efficient, it only relates to space. Period, paragraph, that's it. Now, as far as things getting better, over the last 5 years, like a solar module, the ones that we put in are 38 inches by 64 inches. So 5 years ago, in that same space, they could only fit 200 watts of power. Now the footprint has stayed the same, but now that's getting up to 300 watts. So, and that's the idea of efficiency. So you're getting a lot more power out of the same footprint. And it's moving in that direction. As far as, you know, like roof tile, solar and stuff like that, that's not even, I don't even see that in the trade magazines or even being talked about. Of course, there's concentrating solar. You guys may have heard that in Ivanpah, I don't know how to say that, in California, where they shine all these mirrors at, you know, at a central point, and it actually stores power at night through salt somehow or another. So it's a storage. It's really cool, but it fries birds. So you know, a lot of people don't like it for that. So we got 5 minutes. If anyone can think of anything else to say here. So the question is if there's rebates for a motorhome. Well, the tax rule is it can be your home or a second home. So that's kind of an accountant question. So let's see. You have to get it inspected, and then we have to get it certified through New Mexico Energy and Minerals. I haven't had to do that yet, but I could check on that. You could call New Mexico Energy and Minerals, but if it's your domicile and your place of residence, maybe you could, but you know, you also have to show a tax bill to get the system certified. So the tax bill shows that there's a tangible piece of property, so I'm not sure on that, so it'd be worth asking about.
If your solar panel is going to be warranted for, say, 15, 20 years and put on your roof, does that mean that you better have a roof that's going to last for 15
You know, that's a really good point there. Okay, the question is, we have solar panels that have 25-year warranties on it. And so are people putting solar panels on roof that are going to fail in a couple of years? So, you know, if you call us to come and look at your house, we're also general contractors. We put roofs on houses. So, I mean, we'll give you a fair assessment of what we think about your roof. So if you think you're going to have to re-roof in 5 years, you would have to factor in the cost of taking those solar panels off and putting them back on as part of the cost. And there are different racking systems on a roof. If you did a ballast system and you have kind of a flat roof, it's not that big of a deal to take them off, or take them off and then put them back on again. But if you're making mechanical penetrations and things like that, it gets a little more complicated. So that's something you definitely should look at. You know, we always like to tell people to do ground mount, because then there's never an issue. And then if it ever snows, we know it doesn't snow very much around here, but if it ever does snow, it's really easy to walk up to the array and pull the snow off the array if you want to.
In the scale of things on a big picture, first off, does your company do off-grid systems?
Mm-hmm.
And is that a growth sort of thing going on here, commensurate with the industry as a whole, or is it kind of launched in kind of its own sort of creation going on here?
Okay.
That its growth-wise.
Okay, well, the question is, are off-grid systems as popular really as grid-tied net meter systems? You know, we like the idea of grid-tied systems because it's kind of the civic-minded, responsible thing to do, because you're actually sharing into the societal angle of renewable energy. People that want to go off-grid is just fine. The major impediment to all solar now is storage, okay? So if you go off-grid, you still have to buy batteries, okay? The best batteries only last for 6 or 7 years, or 8 years. So you have, and that's a huge cost. So the average cost of a battery bank from an off-grid system is $4,000 or $5,000. But it's coming along, you know, and storage is the main thing. Get a Tesla so you can plug it into your house. You know, that's what Elon Musk is doing now with Solar City. So they're using that as backup. People are plugging their Teslas in during the day when they have peak charges and and charging their Tesla at night. So that's a pretty neat idea. They've given me the time's up. So if you have any more questions, come on over to our booth. And thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. It was really fun.